Cypress Financial Group presents the Retirement Roundtable Podcast with John Scallan. Get more at cypressfinancial.net. Now, let's get to the show.
My name is Mark Owens and John Scallan. Let's get to it. We're seeing significant changes in the interest rate environment. Now, the Fed has begun what could be a series of rate cuts, and that has implications for various investments that have performed well lately. And I want you to hear this clip from CBS.
Savers are kind of bummed, but it's been a good run for 3 years. They'll see a little bit less interest on their savings and money market accounts and CDs. But if you look online, you can still find rates for those safer accounts of 3.5% to 4%.
It's been a nice run, John. What say you?
Well, I could not agree with her more. I think that audio really captures what we're experiencing right now. I mean, I had a conversation just this week with a client who came in worried about exactly this same scenario. She'd been earning over 4% on her money market account for the past year, and she is now genuinely concerned about what happens as those rates start falling. And Mark, you know, she's right to be concerned. We're in a moment that won't last, in my opinion.
So, John, as these interest rates start heading down, what does that mean for fixed income investments specifically?
Mark, do you remember just a few years ago when money market accounts and CDs were paying less than 1%? I mean, some banks and accounts, they were paying maybe 0.25%. I mean, we were almost in a flat or even a negative rate environment. Right now, we're seeing rates, I'm going to say 5.25%, 5.4%, up to 6% on certain fixed annuity contracts. Again, these are rates we haven't seen in nearly 2 decades. But as the Fed keeps cutting rates, those opportunities are going to disappear. Mark, it's like when mortgage rates were at historic lows. The people who locked in those 2.5% and those 3% mortgages in 2020 and 2021, they're really glad that they did now. This is exactly the same principle, just in reverse. Investors are looking to these higher rates to lock these in before they are gone.
So if I'm hearing what you're saying, John Scallan, is the window closing on these attractive rates?
Well, I think closing is probably not the right word. I think we are going to see a slide downward. I mean, here's what's happening. The Trump administration absolutely believes that if we can get the housing market, specifically the mortgage market, lowering the rates, allowing more people to buy homes, what this does is it supercharges the economy. Unemployment drops. People are buying everything from more fuel to appliances to homes, which always, housing is such a big deal when it comes to the economy. I mean, these are things that hurt now. These are things that will hurt in terms of the savings amount, the return you can get on your short-term investments. But from a long-term perspective, I think what it's going to do to the economy, the stock market, is going to be overall a better thing. Here's the key. Don't rush into anything right now. The Fed still has to meet. They still have to talk about dropping rates. And again, there is still opportunity, not only on annuities, but also on money markets, certainly in the short term, to lock in these higher rates for better gains, even though it could be a temporary situation.
But how can we take advantage of it?
Mark, if you're within 10 years of retirement, either approaching it or recently retired, and you have assets that are in the money market accounts, the CDs and the bonds, now is the time to have a conversation with your advisor about locking in some of these rates while they are still attractive. Remember, when you work with Cypress Financial, the initial consultations are complimentary and there's absolutely no obligation. We'll review what you currently have, show you the additional options, the options that are still attractive in today's rate environment, and help you understand if and how guaranteed income products might fit your situation. We're very, very easy to find. 504-732-1001. We're at cypressfinancial.net. We've got offices on the South Shore and the North Shore. We would love to meet you. We would love to have a conversation and talk about how some of these moves might really help you retire the way you want to retire.
cypressfinancial.net. And John, speaking of building your financial future, here's a sobering reality. 60% of adults don't make it to their planned retirement date. How does this reinforce the importance of comprehensive planning?
Mark, do you remember that study that we are constantly talking about week in and week out? What's the number one concern in retirement?
Running out of money.
Running out of money.
Yes,
100%. You're exactly right. Mark, that's why we focus so heavily on building multiple income streams before you need them. I had a client, let's call him Bob. He planned to work until he was 67 years old. At 63 years old, his company restructured and, quite frankly, they eliminated his position. Fortunately, we had already positioned portions of his income that will provide guaranteed income, not just guaranteed income that will last for his entire lifetime.
It's all about preparing for the speed bumps in life, preparing for the unexpected.
Exactly, Mark. You know, you can't control when your company restructures or when a health issue may arise, but you can control whether you are financially prepared when these things inevitably happen. That's why we don't wait until retirement to start building these comprehensive retirement income streams. We start positioning assets, quite frankly, years ahead of the time when you retire, creating streams that are not dependent upon your paycheck from your employer.
So I'm in that red zone of retirement. What can I do? What's the biggest takeaway?
Mark, I think first of all, don't assume that you will work as long as you plan to. Certainly you hope for the best. Certainly you hope to be happy and fully functioning, physically. But what we do here at Cypress Financial, we help prepare you for the unexpected. Listen, if you're north of 50 years old and you have accumulated assets, that initial no-cost consultation, this could be the most valuable hour that you invest of this entire year. We're at 504-732-1001. Again, you can find us at cypressfinancial.net. Let's get to know each other. Let's have a no-pressure consultation and talk about plans that really can make an impact on you and your family's life in and through retirement.
Again, that number is 504-732-1001. John, a little bit earlier, you mentioned multiple locations of Cypress Financial. Where can we find you?
3421 North Causeway Boulevard in the heart of Metairie, on the North Shore, just across the bridge on Florida Street. We'll be happy to meet you at our offices, at your place of business, or whatever makes the most sense to you.
Again, that number 504-732-1001, cypressfinancial.net. And John saw a fascinating study from Investopedia about the cost of the American dream. But to get there, it ain't cheap. Going to cost you about $5 million over a lifetime. Retirement alone, about $1.6 million. So for families here in Southern Louisiana, that might seem a little overwhelming. How do you help people process the numbers of finding that American dream when so much of it is going to go to retirement?
Mark, as much as we talk about what you have accumulated, at least half of the conversation we have is talking about your management of debt. Mark, you know what's interesting about the American dream? It's different for everyone. For some people, it's traveling the world. For others, it's Sunday dinners with grandkids without worrying about money. That's why I never focus on some national average. I focus on your dream and what that actually cost. I mean, I've seen clients with $500,000 living more comfortably than clients who have accumulated $2 million because they had a better income plan. It's not about accumulating the biggest pile of money. It's about engineering and planning for reliable income streams for the rest of your life.
So I think, John, the big question there is, how often should adults revisit their retirement plan to stay aligned with the realities of how much it's going to cost to reach that American dream?
You know, Mark, I think of it almost like dental care, right? You can't ignore your teeth for years, and even though they might be fine, until suddenly they're not. And by then, fixing the problem is a lot more expensive and painful. The same goes for retirement planning. Regular checkups now prevent major problems down the line. I recommend what I call let's call it the milestone review. Major changes, new job, inheritance, health issues, marriage, divorce, new kids, grandkids. These all trigger immediate reviews. But even without major changes, I actually suggest sitting down annually to stress test your retirement plan.
John, you mentioned the milestone review. So let's break that down. What does that annual process? What does that review? What does it look like? What does it involve?
One of the things that we have in our wheelhouse here at Cypress is sophisticated financial planning software that actually answers 3 critical questions. Number 1, will I run out of money? Do your investments match your risk tolerance? And are they working as hard as they could be? Meaning, are you properly allocated? Are you too aggressive? Are you too conservative? I mean, just last month, I worked with a couple who really thought that they were on track. What our analysis showed is that they were actually ahead of schedule and could consider a 2 to 5 year early retirement. Now, for everyone out there who's listening, here's something that you can do today. Pull out your most recent retirement account statement and ask yourself simply this question: when was the last time someone actually reviewed this with me? If it's been more than a year, or if you can't remember, that's your signal. We can run some comprehensive analytical reports for you in a very comfortable setting. If you'd call us at 504-732-1001, we would be happy to do this for you and your family. And again, help you get a clear picture of what your future actually looks like in retirement.
And John, we're coming up on it. Open enrollment time. The window opens on October the 15th, and people will be receiving their annual notice of change, which shows what their cost will be for next year. Now, John, there may be significant price hikes in premiums and deductibles. What kind of options do some of these adults have?
There are studies done every single year, and the number one cost in retirement is health care. This is exactly why healthcare planning needs to be a central part of any retirement strategy, just not an afterthought. I mean, Medicare costs can easily run $300 to $500 per month per person when you factor in Part B, B as in boy, premiums. Supplement or Advantage plans also have costs. You also have prescription coverage. That's Part D. D as in David, and that's before any major health event or surgeries. Mark, I always tell clients to plan for healthcare to be, again, one of the largest expenses, typically consuming up to 15 to 20% of total retirement spending. Here's what catches people off guard. Those costs are not fixed. They can increase significantly based on your income from 2 years prior. It's called IRMA, income-related monthly adjusted amount, and it can actually add hundreds of dollars per month to your Medicare premiums if you are not careful.
And we don't like IRMA. We're not a fan of IRMA, John Scallan. So as we talk about healthcare costs, how do you incorporate some of these into retirement planning?
Well, Mark, first we make sure clients understand the landscape, right? What's the difference between a Medicare supplement with traditional Medicare? How about Medicare Advantage plans? Which prescription drug coverage is best for me? Rules and cost structures. We also work alongside Medicare specialists who can analyze your specific medications, your doctors, your health needs, and to truly find the most cost-effective coverage for exactly your particular situation. Here's the strategic piece that most people miss. If you're not yet on Medicare but approaching 65, now is the time to think about how your income affects future premiums. A large 401k withdrawal or Roth conversion in the wrong year could actually blow up your Medicare Part B cost, basically pushing you into a higher premium. With proper planning, you can position your assets and time your withdrawals to minimize those spikes in income that may trigger premium surcharges. Mark, it's another example of how everything in retirement is connected. Your withdrawal strategy directly impacts your healthcare costs.
John, this weekend, we've been spending some time talking about risk, income, and now let's talk about taxes. You're going, wait, why you got me all fired up for the NFL right now if we're going to sit here and talk about taxes here on the Retirement Roundtable?
I really thought you were going to throw me something that I knew absolutely nothing about, Mark, but I know a little bit about taxes, so I'm ready to jump in.
Well, let's get to it because former NFL quarterback RG3 recently shared a story about his first big contract. And here's what he told the Mighty podcast.
So when I was signed in the NFL, signing bonus was $14 million. So I signed it. They tell me, hey, it's going to get paid out over 6 months or whatever. So then when I get the full signing bonus, I only got, and I say only respectfully, $6.9 million. So less than 50%. I called my agent immediately. I'm distraught. And I'm like, oh my God, they took all the money out. Where is the $14 million? And he's like, Rob, it's taxes. You didn't tell me that they were going to take half of the signing bonus.
Now, look, that sounds like a first world problem. Those are millions of dollars that we may never see in our lifetime. But you know something, John? I bet you have seen that exact same reaction from adults, from families that you serve when it comes to their tax strategy, because Uncle Sam, he's going to get his.
Oh, yes, Mark. Listen, one man's floor is another man's ceiling. So I can't say that I've seen a $7 million tax hit surprise, but I can certainly tell you that I've had clients call after they completed their tax returns. They've had, capital gains, or they sold the property. Sometimes there are these 1 year big income years that can really throw a client off kilter, specifically about Medicare, specifically about, how much money you owe. We've had clients expecting to get money back. I mean, Mark, tax surprises in retirement are unfortunately common because most people don't realize how different retirement income is taxed compared to your working years. I just worked with a young man who had a $12,000 tax bill that he never saw coming. They withdrew $60,000 from his 401k, received $45,000 in Social Security, and took $15,000 in investment gains because we've had such a hot stock market. They expected to pay taxes on the 401k. That was obvious, but they had no idea that their 401k would make up 85% of their Social Security income taxable. And those investment gains, that pushed him into a higher bracket. It increased Medicare premiums. This is called the triple whammy. 3 different income sources, creating a tax situation that they absolutely never anticipated.
All right, John Scallan, let's break it down then. How do you help adults avoid this triple whammy of getting hit by taxes?
Yeah, Mark, the key is understanding the tax picture before you start taking distributions. We work with clients to map out what their income will actually look like in retirement and identify beforehand potential tax landmines before they step on them. I mean, Mark, sometimes this means considering Roth conversions during lower income years before you retire. Maybe paying those taxes now at a known rate to create tax-free income later. Other times, it's about the sequence of withdrawals. Which account do you tap first, second, or third to actually manage your tax bracket on a year-by-year basis? Listen, this is not rocket science. Most people can get their head wrapped around this just within a few meetings. And again, we always recommend working with a qualified tax professional as part of your planning team because these decisions have real consequences. Mark, the goal isn't to eliminate taxes because, quite frankly, that is impossible. The goal is to avoid unnecessary surprises and make intentional decisions about when and how you're going to pay these taxes.
Listen, you may not have a health problem or a wealth problem, but everybody's got a tax problem. 504-732-1001. We're always available at cypressfinancial.net. As we slowly get ready to hit pause, any final thoughts for an adult listening today worried about their retirement strategy?
Yeah, Mark, a couple of thoughts I'd like to share. I mean, first of all, retirement planning has become incredibly complex with lots of moving parts, many of them that we've discussed today. But keep this in mind. The fundamentals of retirement planning, they remain simple. Start with clear goals. Build multiple income streams. Manage risk appropriately for your personal risk tolerance. And this is the most important one. Don't try to navigate all of this alone. Whether you're 50 and just starting to think seriously about retirement, let's say you're 65, ready to make the transition, regardless of where you are, we would welcome the opportunity to sit down with you. We're simply here to help you see the full financial picture. Again, we're at 504-732-1001 with offices in both Metairie and Mandeville. You can also find us at cypressfinancial.net. As always, we'd be honored to help you build a retirement strategy that gives you the confidence that you deserve.
Investment advisory services offered through Cypress Financial Group, a registered investment advisor firm. Registration is not an endorsement of the firm by securities regulators. By contacting us, you may be provided with information about insurance products, including annuities offered through Cypress Financial Group, John Scallan, Louisiana Insurance License Number 1064997. The firms are separate entities. Annuity guarantees rely on the financial strength and claims paying ability of the issuing insurance company and are not offered by Cypress Financial Group. Read your contract for restrictions, limitations, or penalties.